Captain William Carter stood tall in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. His blue uniform was perfectly pressed despite the 18 hours of waiting the aliens had forced upon the human delegation. This was the 6th round of what the Council called peace negotiations, though William had long suspected they were anything but peaceful. The chamber's curved walls towered 50 feet high, designed to make visitors feel small. 7 alien representatives sat on elevated platforms, looking down at the humans. The Korath delegate, with his gray skin and 4 eyes, seemed particularly pleased with himself today. "The terms are simple, Captain Carter," the Korath said. "Humanity will surrender mining rights to the Epsilon system and reduce its fleet by 30%. William kept his face calm, though his hands tightened behind his back. "And what does Earth receive in return?" "Our continued protection, of course," the Veldurian representative answered. Her tentacles waved dismissively. "The outer regions are dangerous. Small species like yours need guidance." Dr. Samantha Reed, standing to William's left, whispered, "We should consider their offer carefully, Captain. Diplomacy requires patience." Commander Frank Johnson, on William's right, had a different view. "They're stalling, sir. Every meeting brings new demands while they build up forces near our colonies." William nodded slightly. The past year of talks had followed the same pattern. Demands disguised as negotiations, delays when humans raised concerns, and vague threats when humans refused to yield. The Meridian delegate spoke next, his translator converting clicks and whistles into English. "The Council has existed for 10,000 years. We have guided many young species. Your resistance only delays the inevitable harmony of joining us properly." William was about to respond when his communication officer's tablet lit up. The young woman's face went pale as she read the message. "Captain," she said quietly, "emergency transmission from Proxima Centauri II." William took the tablet, read quickly, and felt ice form in his stomach. He looked up at the council members, searching their faces for any hint of shame. He found none. "Is something wrong, Captain Carter?" the Korath asked, his upper eyes blinking in what humans had learned was amusement. "Proxima Centauri II was attacked 3 hours ago," William said, his voice steady despite his anger. "Sorath warships bombed the main settlement. 2,000 civilians are dead." The chamber fell silent. Then the Veldurian spoke. "Unfortunate. Perhaps local commanders misunderstood their orders. If humans kept better control of their territories." "The attack happened while we were in these very negotiations," William interrupted. "The same negotiations where yesterday you promised no military actions would take place." The Meridian delegate made a sound like falling stones. "Peace is a complex process. Sometimes regrettable actions occur during transitions." William looked at his team. Dr. Reed's earlier diplomatic confidence had vanished. Commander Johnson's face showed grim confirmation of his warnings. William straightened his shoulders and stepped forward. "For over 2 years, humanity has participated in these talks in good faith. We have endured delays, changing terms, and thinly veiled threats. We have watched your ships position themselves near our worlds while you speak of peace." He paused, looking at each council member in turn. "As of this moment, humanity formally withdraws from all peace negotiations with the Galactic Council. We will return to Earth and determine our own path forward." Gasps echoed from the junior delegates watching from the sides. The Xorath leader leaned forward. "This is a grave mistake, Captain. No species has ever rejected Council guidance and prospered." William turned to leave, his team falling in behind him. As they reached the massive doors, laughter erupted from the Council platforms. "They'll be back," the Veldurian said loudly. "Humans always talk of pride before begging for help." William didn't turn around. They wouldn't see his expression harden or his resolve strengthen. The Council had made their final mistake, but they were too arrogant to realize it yet. As the doors closed behind the human delegation, William gave a single order to his communications officer: "Send the message to Earth. One word only: terminus. 3 months passed since Captain William Carter walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. From the outside, human space seemed quiet and subdued. Council spy ships reported minimal activity at Earth's orbital shipyards. Trade between human worlds appeared to slow. The Council races exchanged messages of satisfaction, convinced they had put the upstart species in its place. They were wrong. Admiral Lisa Cooper stood at the main viewport of the underground facility on Mars. Below her, in a massive cavern hidden beneath the red planet's surface, thousands of workers moved with purpose around skeletal frames of warships. Similar scenes play out in 60 other secret facilities throughout human territory. Production is ahead of schedule on all fronts, Admiral, reported Commander Alvin Reyes. The new shield generators are testing at 130% of projected capacity. Lisa nodded, her gray eyes scanning the activity below. And the Terminus Protocol. The Senate voted this morning. 97% in favor. It's now fully authorized. Lisa took a deep breath. In 200 years of space exploration, humanity had created many contingency plans, but had never activated the Terminus Protocol. It meant committing every resource, every factory, and every mind to a single purpose: survival through absolute military readiness. The Council thinks we're cowering, Lisa said quietly. Their arrogance gives us time. We need every minute of it. Across the solar system, in a research station hidden within Saturn's rings, engineers Kevin Matthews and Nicole Wright made the final adjustments to a device no larger than a briefcase. Try it now, Nicole said, wiping sweat from her forehead. Kevin activated the device. On their monitors, sensors registered a small unmanned test ship 1,000 miles away. As the device hummed to life, the ship's signature disappeared from all sensors. It works, Kevin whispered. Total sensor invisibility. Nicole allowed herself a small smile. Not just that. Check the weapons console. Kevin switched screens and gasped. The targeting systems showed nothing but empty space where the test ship should be. They won't be able to lock weapons on our ships. Not until we're right on top of them, Nicole confirmed. In a different part of human space, Intelligence Officer Ryan Peterson floated in darkness inside a small stealth craft near a Xoreth communication relay. His body was still as his neural implant connected to the alien network. Through his connection, Ryan drifted through the Xoreth military network, invisible to their security protocols. What he found made his blood run cold. "This is Officer Peterson reporting," he said into his secure communicator after disconnecting. "I've confirmed Council battle plans. The Xoreth fleet is preparing for a final solution operation against Earth. Scheduled launch in 23 days. Back on Earth, Dr. Samantha Reed gave her report to the United Earth Senate. The Council races have a historical pattern. They identify promising species, offer friendship, then systematically disable our ability to resist. When we're weakened, they strike. And you believe this is what they planned for us?" asked a senator. "I don't believe it. I've proven it," Samantha replied. "The archaeological evidence from the Trilleri civilization shows identical tactics. The Council reduced them from a thriving multi-planet society to refugees hiding in asteroid belts. Throughout human territory, preparations continued. Civilians trained with weapons. Children practiced emergency protocols. Factories ran day and night. Ships that appeared civilian on the outside concealed military capabilities within. On the Xoreth homeworld, Supreme Commander Zoltek addressed his war council. "The humans have gone silent. Our intelligence suggests they are still in disarray after leaving negotiations. Should we accelerate our plans?" asked the junior commander. "No," Zoltek said confidently. "Let them stew in their weakness a bit longer. When we arrive at their homeworld, they will surrender immediately. Humans are soft creatures who value individual lives too highly to risk war." He pointed to a display showing Earth. "Soon, this world joins our collection, and humans will serve, like all lesser species must." Zoltak never thought to look deeper beneath Mars' surface, where the largest human fleet ever assembled was nearing completion. He never imagined his communication networks had been compromised, and he certainly never considered that humans had spent decades preparing for this moment. Professor Olivia Martinez stood before a room of military officers in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her usual university lectures were about ancient human civilizations, not alien ones. But today, she was sharing something far more urgent. We misunderstood everything about first contact, Olivia said as she displayed images on the large screen. We thought the Galactic Council welcomed us as equals. The truth is far darker. She showed footage from 20 years earlier. The first alien ship arriving in Earth orbit, the celebrations, the hopeful speeches. Humanity had been overjoyed to learn they weren't alone in the universe. The Council follows the same pattern with every new spacefaring species, Olivia continued. They appear friendly. They offer technology and protection. Then they slowly tighten control. Admiral Lisa Cooper, sitting in the front row, leaned forward. How many times have they done this? At least 27 confirmed cases, Olivia replied. Most species never realized what was happening until it was too late. On the screen, she showed archaeological evidence of civilizations that had vanished after Council contact. Ruins of cities, abandoned ships, entire worlds emptied of intelligent life. At the back of the room, Dr. Jason Phillips raised his hand. The xenobiologist had spent years studying alien biology. The physical evidence is overwhelming, he said. I found genetic markers in supposedly primitive species that show they were once far more advanced. The Council didn't just defeat them. They systematically reversed their development. Admiral Cooper stood up. This confirms our worst fears. The peace talks were never about peace. They were about assessment and control. In another part of the command center, Lieutenant Eric Nelson prepared his team for a dangerous mission. 6 men and women checked their equipment, stealth suits, communication jammers, and small but powerful weapons. We have 48 hours to extract our remaining people from Council space, Eric told them. After that, we expect the Council to begin hostilities. A young woman named Sofia Rodriguez checked her weapons. How many of our people are still out there? 17 diplomats, plus their staff, Eric replied. The Council thinks they're still negotiating minor trade details. They don't know we're pulling everyone out. Meanwhile, in the Grand Council chamber, the 7 main alien races gathered for an emergency session. The Xorath representative spoke first. The humans have withdrawn from our guidance for 3 months now. Our intelligence suggests they are weak and divided. The time has come to implement containment procedures. The Veldurian delegate waved her tentacles in agreement. Their colonies are vulnerable. A quick strike at their outer worlds will bring them to submission. The Meridian representative clicked his mandibles. We should consider a direct approach to their homeworld. Show overwhelming force, and they will surrender without fighting. None of the Council members noticed the small recording devices hidden throughout the chamber. Devices planted by human intelligence officers months earlier. Back on Earth, the full recording of the Council's containment discussion played before the United Earth Senate. The room was silent as they heard the aliens discuss humanity's future as if they were talking about livestock. When the recording ended, the Senate president stood. I believe this removes any doubt about the Council's intentions. The Terminus Protocol is our only option. The vote was unanimous. In orbit around Jupiter, the massive shipyards finished their work on the first wave of Earth's new fleet. Not the simple vessels the Council knew about, but advanced warships with technologies the aliens had never seen. On Earth's moon, deep within a hidden base, Captain William Carter received his new orders. He would command the flagship of humanity's fleet, the UES Defiance. The Council believes we're weak, his orders read. They think we're begging for mercy. When they come to Earth, they'll learn how wrong they are. As Captain Carter read those words, the first Galactic Council ships entered the outer solar system. They expected to find a vulnerable, unprepared humanity. They were about to be surprised. The Galactic Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 200 warships from the 7 Council races filled the space near Neptune's orbit. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals and weapons Earth scientists had never fully understood. On the command ship, Supreme Commander Zoltak of the Ktoreth smiled with all 4 of his mouths. "Send the message to the humans. Demand their immediate surrender." His communications officer obeyed. The message traveled across the solar system. Surrender or be destroyed. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then long-range sensors detected movement near Mars. "Ships approaching," reported the sensor officer. "Small human fleet. Perhaps 30 vessels." Zoltak relaxed in his command chair. As expected, a token resistance before they begged for terms. But as the sensor data updated, confusion spread across the bridge. The officer rechecked his instruments. "Commander, I'm now reading 60 ships. No, 100, 200. Zoltak stood up. "Impossible." On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Lisa Cooper and Captain William Carter watched as their fleet moved into formation. 300 warships, hidden for months in underground bases on Mars, the Moon, and various asteroids, now revealed themselves. "The Council fleet has stopped advancing," reported the tactical officer. "They're surprised," William said quietly. "They expected to find us helpless." Lisa nodded. "Send the reply to their surrender demand." The communications officer typed the short message. "Humanity is done talking." In the space between Mars and Jupiter, the 2 fleets faced each other. The Council ships were larger, with technology refined over thousands of years. But the human ships contained surprises. Technologies developed in secret, weapons designed specifically to counter alien defenses. Zoltak recovered from his shock quickly. "It doesn't matter how many ships they have. Their technology is primitive. Begin the attack pattern." The Council fleet spread out, their lead ships powering weapons designed to overwhelm Earth's outdated defenses. Energy beams lanced across space toward the human fleet. But the beams passed through empty space. The human ships had activated their new stealth systems, becoming nearly invisible to the Council's targeting sensors. "We've lost lock," shouted the Ktoreth weapons officer. "They're using technology we've never seen before." Before the Council ships could adjust, the human fleet struck. Not with the simple missiles the aliens expected, but with precision weapons that bypassed shields entirely. Commander Sharon Mitchell led the first fighter squadron into battle. Her small, fast ships slipped between the larger Council vessels, targeting specific weak points identified by human intelligence. "Focus on their primary power nodes," she ordered her pilots. "Just like we practiced." Her squadron fired specialized weapons that attached to the hulls of Ktoreth ships and burrowed through their armor. 20 Council ships lost power within minutes. On the Defiance, Admiral Cooper watched the battle unfold. "Phase 2, she ordered. Large human carriers moved forward, launching hundreds of smaller craft. Meanwhile, the stealth destroyers targeted the Council's command ships. Zoltak's vessel shook as hits registered across its hull. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their weapons shouldn't penetrate our shields." "They're using technology we've never encountered," his science officer admitted. "It appears they've been developing it for years, in secret." For the first time in his long life, Zoltak felt fear. The humans weren't following any battle doctrine the Council knew. They fought unpredictably, adapting quickly when Council ships changed tactics. After 1 hour of battle, 30 Council ships had been disabled. Another 20 were destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 12 vessels. "Commander, we must retreat and regroup," urged Zoltak's second-in-command. "This is not proceeding as planned." Zoltak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. No species had ever driven back a full Council armada. It was unthinkable, impossible, yet it was happening. "Fall back to the outer system," he finally ordered. "We need reinforcements." As the Council ships retreated, cheers erupted across the human fleet. But Admiral Cooper remained solemn. "This is only the beginning," she told Captain Carter. "Now the real war starts." Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. Humans had not only resisted the Council, they had won the first battle. News of the human victory spread across Council space faster than the authorities could contain it. On a dozen worlds, species that had lived under Council rule for centuries whispered about what happened. The unbeatable Council fleet had been defeated. The impossible had occurred. In the Grand Council chamber, the 7 ruling species argued bitterly. "You said the humans were primitive," the Veldurian representative shouted at her Xoreth counterpart. "Your intelligence was completely wrong." The Meridians were responsible for assessing their technology. The Xoreth leader shot back. They failed to notice what the humans were building. As the Council leaders blamed each other, cracks in their alliance grew wider. Lieutenant Daniel Powell worked alone in a small room deep inside Earth's lunar base. His job was to monitor strange signals detected after the battle. Most were easily identified as damaged Council ships calling for help. But one pattern stood out. "This is odd," he said to himself. He adjusted his equipment to focus on the unusual transmission. It wasn't using any Council communication protocol. The pattern repeated every 90 seconds. After running it through a dozen analysis programs, Daniel sat up straight. "It's an old Earth code," he realized. "But that's impossible." He decoded the message. "Friends watch from shadows. Humans not alone. Trulari wait to speak." Daniel immediately alerted command. The Trulari were supposed to be extinct, wiped out by the Council centuries ago. Within hours, a small human scout ship slipped away from the moon. Ambassador Grace Wilson sat nervously in the passenger compartment. She had been chosen for this mission because of her background in xenolinguistics and diplomacy. The ship traveled to coordinates specified in the strange message, far from regular patrol routes. They waited in the shadow of a small asteroid. "Movement detected," the pilot announced. "Something's coming out from inside the asteroid." A ship emerged, unlike any design humans had seen before. Its hull seemed to bend light around it, making it difficult to focus on. It approached slowly, broadcasting a simple message. "Friends." Grace took a deep breath. "Open a channel." On the view screen, a being appeared. It had 4 arms and a face with features that reminded Grace of both birds and lizards. Its skin shimmered with scales in blue and green. "I am Zilnera of the Trulari," the being said in perfect English. "We have watched humans for decades. When you fought back against the Council, we knew the time had come." "The Council told us the Trulari were extinct," Grace said. Zilnera made a chirping sound that might have been laughter. "The Council has told that story about many species. We survived, hiding in forgotten places, and we are not alone." Over the next few days, transmissions arrived from across the galaxy. 7 different species, all supposedly extinct or primitive, reached out to humanity. Each had suffered under Council rule. Each had been hiding, watching, waiting for someone to successfully challenge their oppressors. In a secure conference room on Earth, Dr. Samantha Reed presented the findings to the United Earth Senate. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," she explained. "These species have offered alliance. They'd been developing their own technologies in secret, just like we did. Together, we could actually defeat the Council." Admiral Lisa Cooper studied the reports. "The Trulari have advanced stealth systems. The Bracari understand Council ship weaknesses. The Novan have mapped all Council supply routes. We need to establish proper diplomatic protocols," Dr. Reed said. "A formal alliance structure." "What should we call it?" asked a senator. Ambassador Wilson, freshly returned from her meeting with the Trulari, stood up. They suggested a name already: the Free Species Alliance. Meanwhile, human intelligence officers made another critical discovery. Lieutenant Ryan Peterson had infiltrated the Council's secure networks again. "I found it," he reported to Captain William Carter. "The location of their primary shipyards and weapons facilities. If we hit these 3 locations, we could cripple their ability to build new warships. William studied the information carefully. This changes everything. We don't need to fight a defensive war anymore. As the council races continued arguing among themselves, blaming each other for the human victory, they remained unaware of the new alliance forming against them. Species they thought long subjugated or extinct were now sharing technologies, strategies, and hope. The tide was about to turn even further. 2 weeks after the first meeting with the Trilari, a massive fleet gathered near Jupiter. Human ships were joined by vessels of 7 formerly hidden species. Each brought unique designs and technologies that had been developed in secret over centuries. Admiral Lisa Cooper looked out from the bridge of the UES Defiance at the assembled force. "I never thought I'd see this day," she said quietly. "So many different species working together." Captain William Carter stood beside her. The council never imagined their victims would unite. The combined fleet was organized into 3 attack groups. Each had a specific target: the main council shipyards at Veldurian Prime, the weapons facilities orbiting the Xorith homeworld, and the central command station where the council coordinated their military operations. Captain Laura Bennett commanded the attack group heading for the Xorith homeworld. Her ship, the UES Challenger, led 50 human vessels and 30 ships from the allied species. Laura had fought in the first battle against the council and knew how dangerous they could be. "All ships report ready," her first officer informed her. Laura nodded. "Signal the fleet. We jump in 5 minutes." Across all ships, crews made final preparations. Engineer Kevin Matthews checked the special weapon his team had developed. It was designed to disable enemy ships without destroying them. "This will give us a huge advantage," he told Nicole Wright. "We can capture their technology intact." Nicole adjusted a final setting and save lives on both sides. The Allied fleet vanished into jump points, traveling faster than light toward their targets. For the first time in thousands of years, someone was bringing war to the Council's home systems. On the Xorith homeworld, citizens watched their propaganda networks. The news showed images of savage humans attacking peaceful Council ships. "The barbaric humans have rejected all peaceful approaches," the announcer said. "The Council protects all civilized species from such aggression." But even as these messages played, doubts were growing. Information leaked through hidden channels. Questions spread. If humans were so primitive, how had they defeated the Council fleet? Why were there rumors of other species joining them? These questions were forgotten when alarms sounded across the Xorith capital city. The combined human-allied fleet had arrived. "Council Defense Fleet moving to intercept," reported the tactical officer on the UES Challenger. Captain Laura Bennett watched calmly. "Deploy our fighters. Use the new jamming technology." Hundreds of small craft poured from the larger ships. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, they activated special devices that confused the Council's communication systems. The Council fleet, used to fighting with perfect coordination, suddenly couldn't communicate between ships. Their rigid command structure fell apart as individual captains didn't know what to do without direct orders. The Allied ships struck with precision. Kevin's new weapon proved highly effective. Council ships went dark, their systems completely shut down, crews trapped inside without being killed. On the Xorith homeworld surface, military leaders watched in horror as their orbital defenses failed one by one. "This is impossible," the Xorith Supreme Commander said. "No one can defeat our combined fleets." But the evidence was right before his eyes. The Council ships were being systematically disabled or destroyed. For the first time, the Council races experienced what they had inflicted on others for millennia. Similar scenes played out at the other targets. The Allied fleet struck with careful planning, using knowledge gained from centuries of secret observation. As news of the attacks spread, something unprecedented happened. The Veldurian faction sent a private message to Earth. They wanted to negotiate a separate peace. "They're breaking ranks," Admiral Cooper said when she received the news. "The Council is fracturing." Meanwhile, on a distant labor planet, Colonel Alan Davidson led ground forces to free thousands of enslaved beings from multiple species. As the prison doors opened, the captives stared in disbelief at their liberators. "You're free now," Alan told them through his translator. "The Council's power is breaking." Across the galaxy, subject worlds that had lived under Council rule for generations began to rise up. They had seen the impossible. The Council could be defeated. The tide had turned. The 7 leaders of the Galactic Council met in their ancient fortress world of Sanctum Prime. For the first time in thousands of years, they felt fear. The chambers that had once witnessed countless victory celebrations were now silent with shock. "We have lost control of 14 systems," the Xoreth leader reported. His usual confidence was gone. "The Veldurians have already signed a separate peace treaty with the humans." "Traitors," hissed the Meridian representative. "They should be punished for their weakness." "With what fleet?" asked the Torgan leader bitterly. "Half our ships are disabled or destroyed. The other half are trying to contain rebellions across our territories." Outside the council chamber, a junior aide named Pelnar copied secret files to a hidden device. Pelnar's species had served the council for generations, always treated as lesser beings. Now, with trembling hands, he gathered evidence of the council's true history. Records of past genocides, plans for conquering new species, and orders for erasing cultures that resisted. The documents reached the Free Species Alliance within hours, transmitted through hidden channels. When Admiral Lisa Cooper read them, her face hardened. "They've done this dozens of times," she told her officers. "Entire civilizations wiped out because they refused to be slaves." The evidence was broadcast across all systems. Species that had served the Council loyally for centuries saw the truth for the first time. The Council had never been protectors. They were conquerors who eliminated any species that showed too much independence. On the UES Defiance, Admiral Cooper drafted terms for peace. The Council leadership must face justice for war crimes. All enslaved species must receive full independence. The Council military authority must be dissolved permanently. Ambassador Grace Wilson argued for fairness. "We should not become what we fight against. Justice, not revenge." The terms were transmitted to Sanctum Prime. The message was simple: accept these conditions or face total defeat. The Council leaders received the terms with outrage. "This is unacceptable," the Meridian leader declared. "We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not surrender to lesser beings." While the other Council members considered their options, the Meridian leader made a secret decision. He ordered his remaining fleet to launch a direct attack on Earth itself. "If we destroy their homeworld," he told his commanders, "their alliance will fall apart." The Meridian attack fleet jumped toward the Sol system, expecting to catch Earth undefended while the human forces were spread across Council space. What they found instead was a combined defense fleet from all allied species. The Trileri had detected the Meridian fleet's preparations and warned Earth days in advance. The battle was brief but fierce. The Meridian ships fought with the desperation of those who knew defeat meant the end of their dominance. But they were outnumbered and outmatched by the combined tactics of the allied species. Within hours, the last Meridian battleship surrendered. The final major Council offensive capability had been destroyed. Back on Sanctum Prime, news of the Meridian defeat spread quickly. The remaining Council members turned on each other. "You ordered that attack without consulting us," the Xoreth leader shouted at his Meridian counterpart. "Your incompetence led us to this disaster," the Meridian shot back. As they argued, reports arrived from across their territories. On the Xoreth homeworld, citizens were protesting in the streets. They had seen the leaked documents, learned the truth about their leaders' actions over centuries. By the end of the day, the Xoreth military had overthrown their own government. Similar uprisings spread across Council worlds. Human diplomatic teams, led by Ambassador Wilson, began negotiating separate peace agreements with individual Council members. Some surrendered to avoid destruction. Others joined willingly after overthrowing their leaders. The Meridian leader was arrested by his own security forces when they discovered his orders to sacrifice their remaining ships in a suicidal attack. One by one, the Council races accepted reality. Their alliance had always been built on convenience and shared conquest, not true unity. When faced with a real challenge, they turned on each other immediately. As Admiral Cooper watched reports of the Council's complete collapse, she thought back to Captain Carter walking out of the peace talks months earlier. "They never understood us," she said quietly. And that was their fatal mistake. 5 years passed since the day humanity abandoned the peace talks. The galaxy was a vastly different place now. On a beautiful planet located in neutral space, thousands of ships gathered from dozens of species. The planet had been uninhabited, its blue oceans and green continents providing the perfect location for a new beginning. In a large dome-shaped building at the center of a newly constructed city, representatives from 47 species gathered. The room was designed to ensure no one sat higher than others. All were equal here. Admiral William Carter, promoted after the war, took his place beside Ambassador Grace Wilson. They represented Earth in this historic gathering. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years," William said quietly. Grace nodded. "From facing extinction to this moment, we've come so far." The chamber quieted as the session began. The signing of the new Galactic Concordat was about to take place. Unlike the old Council, which had been built on domination, the Concordat was founded on 3 principles: sovereignty for all species, mutual defense, and cultural exchange. Representatives from the former Council races were present too. They no longer commanded others but joined as equals. Their militaries had been permanently reduced, their ability to threaten others removed. Dr. Samantha Reed presented the opening speech. "Today we acknowledge the past while building the future," she said. "For too long, the galaxy lived under the shadow of conquest disguised as protection." She unveiled a series of monuments, each dedicated to a civilization that had been destroyed by the old Council. "We must remember those who were lost, so their fate is never repeated." When the Trilari representative spoke, his words moved many to tears. "My people lived in hiding for centuries, believing we were among the last to resist. Now we stand in the light again, among friends." The signing began. Each species added their mark to the document, affirming their commitment to a new kind of galactic community. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Lisa Cooper approached William and Grace. She had commanded the human fleet during the war and now served as Earth's defense chief. "There's something you should know," she said. "Something few people outside our highest military circles are aware of." She led them to a private room where several senior officials waited. "The truth about how we prepared so quickly for war," Lisa explained. "It wasn't just luck or human ingenuity." An older man named General Peter Blackwood stepped forward. 50 years ago, we detected unusual transmissions from deep space. They contained warnings about the Council and their true nature." "From who?" William asked. "We never knew for certain," Peter replied. "But they included technical specifications that helped us develop our stealth technology and shield penetrators." Grace looked shocked. "You mean we had help?" Lisa nodded. "We think they were from previous victims of the Council who didn't want to see another species fall. We spent decades quietly preparing, building hidden shipyards, developing technologies the Council wouldn't expect. So when we walked out of those peace talks," William began, "it was the signal to activate plans long in place." Lisa finished. "The Council never understood that we suspected their true nature from the beginning." Outside the meeting hall, the celebration began. Ships from all allied species flew in formation above the new capital. Among them were vessels from newly freed worlds, and even some from species just making their first journeys into space. Newcomers welcomed with friendship rather than conquest. Former Council leaders, now facing justice for their crimes, watched from their detention facility. They had finally understood their grave misstep. They had mistaken human patience for weakness, diplomatic efforts for naivety. As the celebration continued into the night, William stood on a balcony overlooking the new city. A small ship landed nearby. Unlike any design he had seen before, a single figure emerged and approached him. "Who are you?" William asked. The being smiled. "Just a friend. One who is pleased to see the galaxy free at last." Before William could ask more, the visitor handed him a small device. "For the next challenge," the being said. Then it returned to its ship and vanished into the stars. William looked at the device, wondering what new chapter in the galaxy's story was about to begin.